Welcome to Epic World History, where we uncover the rise and fall of empires, the legends of warriors, and the stories that shaped civilizations. Today, we bring you the tale of Attila the Hun, the Scourge of God. From the vast steppes of Asia to the gates of Rome, his shadow changed the fate of Europe, leaving behind a legacy of fear, power, and legend. Welcome to a story of terror and power. In the 5th century, Europe trembled at the name of Attila the Hun. Called the Scourge of God, he became the most feared barbarian leader of his age. His Hun Empire stretched from the Danube to the steppes of Asia, uniting fierce tribes under his command. Romans and barbarians alike whispered his name with dread, for no city seemed safe from his wrath. Today, we uncover the rise of Attila the Hun, his relentless campaigns, and the legacy of fear he left behind. This is not just a tale of conquest, but of a man who forced both the Western and Eastern Roman empires to kneel. The Scourge of God was not born in marble palaces, but from the endless grasslands where the horse was king. The origins of the Hun Empire remain shrouded in mystery. They rode westward from the Asian steppes like a storm, displacing Gothic tribes and shaking the very foundations of Rome. Attila was born into this world of conquest, a child of the saddle, raised to fight and rule. Unlike the Romans, the Huns built no stone walls, raised no marble cities. Their empire was not made of monuments, but of speed, fear, and fire. Every Hun warrior grew up mastering the horse and the bow, creating an unstoppable cavalry that terrorized their enemies. The Romans called them savages, but they were masters of mobility and discipline. From these humble yet fearsome roots, Attila would rise, destined to become the Scourge of God. By the 430s, Attila ruled alongside his brother Bleda. Together, they extended the Hun Empire's reach into Roman lands. But Attila was not content with shared power. He eliminated Bleda, seizing sole control of the Hun Empire. With his brother gone, Attila's ambition knew no limits. He demanded tribute from both Eastern and Western Rome, forcing emperors to pay gold for peace. His envoys rode into Constantinople with threats, and Roman officials trembled at his gaze. To Attila, diplomacy was a weapon as sharp as the sword. Each treaty he signed was not a promise of peace, but a chance to prepare for the next strike. The Scourge of God now had one throne, one vision, and one mission: to make the world fear him. Attila the Hun understood the art of fear. His armies struck suddenly, moving faster than Roman legions could respond. Villages burned, captives were taken, and survivors carried tales of horror. To many, Attila was more than a man, he was a punishment sent by heaven. The Christian chroniclers called him the Scourge of God, a divine wrath unleashed upon a sinful world. Yet Attila himself claimed no holy mission. He sought power, gold, and submission. His warriors believed in his destiny, and his enemies believed in his curse. When Attila's banners appeared on the horizon, cities surrendered without a fight, preferring tribute to destruction. Fear itself became his greatest weapon, stronger than steel. The Hun Empire under Attila became a storm sweeping across Europe. In 447 AD, he unleashed his fury on the Eastern Roman Empire. Marching deep into the Balkans, his armies crushed Roman garrisons and left cities in ruins. Constantinople itself trembled as Attila approached. Only a massive tribute of gold saved the eastern capital from devastation. The Romans called it peace, but it was humiliation. Attila returned to the steppes with wagons filled with treasure, his power greater than ever. For him, each campaign was both conquest and demonstration. A reminder to the Romans that they were powerless before the Hun Empire. The Scourge of God had not yet reached his peak, but the world already felt his shadow. By the late 440s, Attila turned his gaze westward. The Western Roman Empire, weakened by internal strife, became his next target. In Gaul, his army swept across the plains, devastating towns and leaving Roman defenses in ruins. But Attila was not just a barbarian leader seeking plunder. He played politics with brilliance. He allied with certain barbarian tribes against Rome, then turned against them when they no longer served his cause. The Hun Empire was built on such shifting alliances, forged in fire and broken by betrayal. Attila's hunger for power grew larger than Rome itself. For many, he seemed unstoppable, a conqueror with no equal. The world feared his name, and even Rome's strongest generals doubted their strength against him. In 451 AD, Attila launched his most daring campaign. With an army of Huns and allied tribes, he invaded Gaul, threatening the heart of Western Europe. Cities fell one by one as his cavalry thundered across the land. Panic spread through the Roman provinces, for it seemed the Scourge of God could not be stopped. Yet fate brought him face to face with a coalition led by the Roman general Flavius Aetius and the Visigoth king Theodoric. For the first time, Rome and the Goths stood united against a common enemy. The stage was set for one of the bloodiest clashes of the ancient world, the Battle of the Catalaunian Plains. Attila prepared to test his destiny against the last hope of Rome. The Battle of the Catalaunian Plains became a storm of steel and blood. Tens of thousands clashed in a desperate struggle that lasted until nightfall. Attila commanded from the center, his horse archers unleashing waves of arrows, while his allies pressed the Roman lines. But Aetius and the Visigoths fought with fury, refusing to yield. King Theodoric fell in battle, yet his warriors carried on, driving the Huns back step by step. Attila, who had never known defeat, faced the unthinkable, a stalemate. Though not destroyed, his army was forced to retreat. Rome had survived, but only barely. The Scourge of God had been checked, though his legend grew even darker. Though checked in Gaul, Attila did not abandon his hunger. The following year, in 452 AD, he invaded Italy. His cavalry stormed across the north, burning cities and striking terror into the Roman heartland. Aquileia was destroyed so thoroughly that chroniclers said it vanished from the earth. Panic gripped Rome itself, and refugees flooded the countryside. Yet in this moment of crisis, Pope Leo I rode out to meet Attila. What words were exchanged remain a mystery, but legend claimed Attila turned back, awed by the Pope's authority, or deterred by famine and disease among his troops. Whatever the cause, Rome was spared for now. Attila retreated, still undefeated, still feared, still the scourge of God. After years of terror, Attila's story reached its climax. In 453 AD, he prepared yet another campaign, this time against the Eastern Empire. But destiny intervened. On the night of his wedding to a young bride, Attila the Hun died suddenly. Some claimed he bled to death from a nosebleed. Others whispered of poison or assassination. Whatever the truth, the Scourge of God was gone in an instant. His death unleashed chaos, for without his iron will, the Hun Empire fractured. Tribes that once trembled before him now rebelled, and within a generation, the empire of fear collapsed. Yet Attila's name endured, echoing as the ultimate symbol of barbarian power. The death of Attila left a void no leader could fill. His sons attempted to rule, but the unity he had forged soon crumbled. Former allies, once bound by fear, turned against the Hun Empire. The Germanic tribes rose in revolt, seizing the chance to break free. At the Battle of Nidau in 454 AD, the Huns suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of their former subjects. What Attila built in fire and steel disintegrated in a single generation. Yet his legend outlived his empire, carried in the tales of enemies and admirers alike. Attila was no ordinary barbarian leader, he was a force of nature. Attila's reputation spread far beyond the lands he conquered. To the Romans, he was the barbarian who had humiliated their empire, forcing even emperors to bow. To Christian chroniclers, he was the Scourge of God, an instrument of divine punishment. To his own people, he was the greatest leader they had ever known. A man who united nomadic tribes into an empire feared across continents. Legends grew around his name, painting him as both demon and hero. Few figures in history left such a dual legacy, destroyer of worlds to some, savior to others. The Hun Empire, even in collapse, changed the course of Europe. Their invasions pushed Germanic tribes deeper into Roman territory, hastening the empire's downfall. The Visigoths, Vandals, and Franks moved westward, reshaping the map of Europe. Attila had not only shaken Rome, he had set in motion the migrations that would define the Middle Ages. In many ways, the shadow of the Scourge of God reached far beyond his death. His campaigns forced Rome to adapt, to ally with old enemies, and to accept a world it could no longer control. To understand Attila is to see both sides of the coin. He was ruthless, burning cities and leaving trails of destruction. Yet he was also cunning, a strategist who wielded diplomacy as skillfully as the sword. Some chroniclers admired his discipline and leadership, while others cursed his name for centuries. His Hun Empire, though short-lived, stood as a reminder that power does not always rest in marble halls. It can rise from the grasslands, carried on horseback. Attila proved that even the mightiest empires could be humbled by a nomad king. The image of Attila haunted Europe for centuries. Medieval kings invoked his name as a warning of wrath and ruin. Churchmen used the Scourge of God as a symbol of divine punishment, teaching that arrogance and sin would invite destruction. Even in folklore, mothers frightened children with tales of the Hun horseman. His memory lived not just in books, but in fear itself. Attila became less of a man and more of a myth, a figure who blurred the line between history and legend. Rome, both east and west, never forgot the lesson of Attila. He revealed their weakness, exposed their divisions, and forced them to confront the fragility of empire. In his time, he was the great equalizer, proving that even Rome could bleed. For the Eastern Empire, Attila's demands drained their treasury and tested their resilience. For the Western Empire, his invasions foreshadowed collapse. Though Rome endured for a time, Attila had shown the cracks that would one day shatter it completely. Historians debate whether Attila sought to destroy Rome or simply exploit it. Some argue he aimed at conquest, others that he pursued wealth and dominance without permanent rule. What is certain is that his campaigns reshaped Europe. His presence forced Rome into alliances, into compromises, and into desperation. Attila's empire did not last, but the ripple effects of his reign continued for centuries. In this way, the Scourge of God left a mark on history greater than his own lifetime. Even today, the name Attila the Hun carries power. He is remembered as one of the most feared leaders of antiquity, a man who brought empires to their knees. Modern scholars sift through legend and fact, seeking the real Attila behind the myth. What emerges is a portrait of a leader who mastered both terror and strategy, a ruler who understood that fear was the sharpest weapon. His empire fell, but his story remains a reminder of how one man can change the fate of nations. The Hun Empire was gone, but the echoes of its power lingered. Europe would never again be the same after Attila. He was the storm that swept across the continent, the shadow that haunted Rome's twilight years. For centuries, storytellers, poets, and rulers invoked his name. The Scourge of God became both warning and legend, proof of how fragile human empires truly were. In his rise and fall, Attila embodied the truth that power is fleeting, yet memory endures. Thus ends the story of Attila the Hun, the Scourge of God. From the steppes of Asia to the gates of Rome, his name inspired terror and awe. He was a barbarian leader, yet also a master of strategy, diplomacy, and fear. His empire fell swiftly after his death, but his legend outlived marble palaces and golden thrones. Attila proved that history is not only shaped by emperors in purple robes, but by riders of the grasslands who dared to challenge the world. His shadow still lingers in memory, a timeless reminder of how fear and power can change civilizations forever.